The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Everywhere we go, everywhere we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go, West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go, West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once more to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon for alerts and new content. And don't forget to click all. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. Please also don't forget that if you are a sensitive disposition, please like and share this stream and do all of that and then clear off because we might let the odd curse word out. So if you're going to remain after this point and you hear us say words like shit, fuck and bollocks, it's on you, not me. Right. Premier League, match day 16 of 38. Fulham, West Ham United at Craven Cottage. Joining me to discuss it is my younger brother, Ben. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, obviously off the back of a good result midweek, and looking to keep this run going because we're in some good form. Results-wise,
yeah, results-wise, but maybe not always pleasing on the eye, as we've obviously discussed at length over the last month or two. But in terms of getting the job done and getting the wins, I mean, in our last 6 in all competitions, we've won 5 of them, drawn 1. So the proof's in the pudding, I guess.
And I think there was a few, it was probably a month or maybe a month to 6 weeks ago where we were on a bad run, and we kind of went back to old Moyes' press conference when he said, "Well, winning is what I do." And we said, "Well, you better fucking do it, son." And in fairness, he has.
He has. Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's crack on. So, guys, you that have been here a long time will know the crack. But for those of you that are new joining us, keep an eye on the ticker at the bottom. It will intermittently change with little snippets of information, such as the officials. So keep an eye out for that as we go along. So we'll start off. Ben, usual question that I'll ask you with to tee it off. Your thoughts on the opposition this season?
I think they're probably doing what you expect Fulham to do. Do you know what I mean? They're probably in the position in the league where you'd expect them to be. I think there's some real poor teams in the league this year, Rob. So I think that there's a lot of the teams, and I'll probably include ourselves in that bracket, that are probably not going to come under threat from any sort of relegation. And it's going to be a fairly competitive middle part of the league between quite a lot of teams. And Fulham are fighting out in that region, and us, slightly ahead of them, but in a similar position in the table, that middle section of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was I think they've been, if you look at their results, they'll win a game, they'll lose a game, they'll draw a game, they'll win a game, they'll lose a game, and this sort of like they don't seem to really sort of get any sort of positive momentum so far. I mean, they had a bloody good result, as you can see there. When we sort of get to it, the result in midweek when we was beating Spurs they were ripping a new one to Nottingham Forest. 5-0, very impressive outcome.
Exactly, and especially when you think we've played Forest fairly recently, and wasn't an easy game. We only won the game once in the last minute. I mean, you can't judge games like that, but the fact is, they've wiped the floor with a team that we've kind of struggled to beat. So I think that's telling me it's going to be a very tough game. And actually, Rob, looking at that, there's no real disgraceful results there whatsoever, is there? Because they've over the course of the last sort of month or so, they've got a good draw away at Brighton. They've lost by 1 goal against Man United. Villa have done them at home, but Villa are doing everyone at home, and Villa are having an amazing season. Fulham nearly got a win at Anfield, and then I think the Scousers pulled out a couple of goals. Plus they've beaten Fulham. So to be honest, mate, I was looking at the form guide without actually looking at who they'd been playing and what the scores were. And bit like what you just said, it looks like win 1, lose 1, draw 1. But when you actually analyse the scores and who they're playing and the results, I think Fulham are in good form.
Yeah. Okay, so next question I've got for you. Who is our opposition's key player in your opinion? You guys in the live chat, get stuck into these questions as well as we go.
Do I have to pick one? I can't pick a few.
It's not a problem.
I think overall their key player is Paulinho. I think from what I've seen, he's a top player. Do you know what I mean? When we lost Rice, we were rumoured that we might go in for him. But then I think he got an injury that might have scuppered that slightly. But I think people thought that injury was a really bad one, but it obviously wasn't because he's been playing this season. So I think Paulinho is the player that makes him tick. And I think they're pretty good in central midfield with him and Kearney. But I would have to say, just recently, Iwobi and Raul Jimenez are really looking at an attacking threat. I looked at their team that started against Forest, and actually, I'm a bit worried about their attacking threat. I think they're quite quick, and Jimenez was brilliant at Wolves. He had the bad injury, and then he's just lost his form. But if he can get back to some, 80% of the player he was at Wolves, then he's going to be a real handful for the defence tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of players that I think have really sort of stepped up to the mark as far as I'm concerned for Fulham. Jimenez looked very impressive in the game against Nottingham Forest in midweek. He got a brace. Player I've always quite liked. I mean, he got a bad injury at Wolves, and I'm not quite sure that he ever recaptured the form after that injury that he displayed before it. I don't know whether the injury was the catalyst for that, or I really don't know the ins and outs. I didn't really follow Wolves that intently, but his form did seem to dip off. But he seems to have started life in a Fulham shirt, in decent fashion, I believe.
Yeah, it looks that way, mate. And likewise with Iwobi. I mean, I don't think Iwobi is a world beater.
No.
But, I think he's always been a player that can nick a goal. And obviously he got a brace on during the week as well. So I think, and like I say, I think with Paulinho and Kearney in midfield, I think they're going to have a lot of the ball tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Because I actually recall probably over the last few years us going to Fulham. I don't know if it was last season or the year before, that actually Fulham absolutely dominated the game. It was a little bit like the Spurs game during the week.
That was last season. I was there.
Yeah, and I think Fulham dominated the game, but we ended up, I think it went up in off someone's arse and we won 1-0.
Yeah, it was Jared Bowen scored. I went there earlier in the year. It was about April time. In fact, it's on that slide there, 8th of April.
Oh, yeah, of course. But, listen, I'm hoping for a good performance because I think, we're slowly building. there's parts of our game that are getting better. I wouldn't say we're fluidly controlling games, but hopefully we can just grind out another win just to keep it going. But I am a little concerned. The amount of games we've got coming up, the Moyes' reluctance to really rotate much of the team, but not only, I'm not digging Moyes out. The players on the bench, when you look at them, I'm kind of thinking, I'm not sure I trust any of them to really come in and do a good job. So I feel like the squad is looking a little bit light, and we don't even have any injuries.
Yeah, it is a little bit concerning. Maybe the squad's not as strong as we thought it was at the beginning of the season, but there you go.
Yeah.
Just to flip that on its head, which West Ham player will be the key to a positive result, or players?
Yeah, I think. I think I'm gonna say I think Zuma, because I just think Jimenez is quite a physical presence, and that should be something that Zuma should relish, that physical battle. And I think even though defensively we haven't been great this season, the last couple of games, I think we have looked solid overall. I mean, the Palace game, we did look pretty solid, albeit for one sort of major mistake, individual error. And against Spurs, we were under the cost massively and only conceded from a corner. So I think defensively, we're starting to look a bit more solid. But yeah, just what the other guys are saying, really. I think if we're to get anything from the game in terms of goals and output, you can only really think it's probably going to come from Kudus or Bowen in terms of creating or scoring those goals, because they're our two sort of key offensive players at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis, and like I say, a lot of the guys in the chat are pretty much in agreement with you. That there is our Premier League record against Fulham, which I think you look at that and you go, my goodness, that's really mightily impressive. Only the 4 times that they've managed to get the better of us in the Premier League era. What do you put that down to, Ben? Because obviously there are many different teams, managers, personnel. Yet looking at that, we absolutely dominate them. What's the key? Is it just one of those sort of like jinxes that sometimes the team has over another? What's going on?
Yeah, I just think, to be honest, Rob, I think we're just a better team, and we always have been a better team than Fulham. I know that sounds pretty a simplistic way of putting it, but I think for Fulham, we're probably not I don't know. Mentally, it's not like they're playing Chelsea and it's one of their big rivals and they're going so up for the game. Do you know what I mean? I think it's probably for Fulham, it's just, West Ham are coming to town and they're probably not as up for it as they might be if it was a Man United or a Chelsea or a Spurs. Do you know what I mean? That might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
And I think, I think Fulham over the last sort of 5-6 years, they played pretty football. I mean, I remember Fulham coming to the London Stadium and passing us off the park, but us still winning the game. I think we've especially under Moyes, we can just, we're happy to watch all those pretty little triangles and football, but then we'll just nick a couple from a set piece and bye, thanks for coming. It was nice and pleasant to watch you play football, but we're going home with the 3 points.
Yeah. Well, I've picked a couple of key players for both Fulham and West Ham, and the two components are I've gone for 2 players that operate in the engine room, the midfield department. Now, with the Fulham player that I've gone for, he has been mentioned by people in the live chat. And as for the West Ham player, now I don't know whether he could be plopped into the defensive midfield section. He could be put into the offensive midfield section. But I think that these 2 players are at some point going to come into direct competition with one another. And it's João Palhinha and Thomas Souček. I think that Souček's obviously come in, as we know, for an awful lot of criticism about his lack of passing, about his mobility and all the rest of it. And that's fine. But when you look at his record this season in terms of 14 appearances and 4 goals, 1 assist, you can't really argue against him being included in starting 11, can you, Ben?
Absolutely not, mate. And look, we all have ups and downs and frustrations, but he's one of the first names on the team sheet. Look, it doesn't matter how he's playing, but this season he's been very solid. Works hard, and when we've needed him, he's come up with the goals. So love what he's doing. He's scored some really good goals. I mean, the volley against Burnley, actually technically was an amazing volley. You know what I mean? It's not like that showed that he's a technically gifted footballer. And I think the last few games, the last 2 months, he's been our best player overall. So yeah, doing really well. And is that Paulinho for Fulham?
Yeah.
I mean, they're two different players, Rob, because I think Paulinho he wants the ball and he'll make.
He's more dynamic, isn't he?
He's more of a passer than Souček. But that's an interesting matchup, Rob, because stylistically, that's one of your favourite words. They're 2 different players, but it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top, and hopefully it's our big potato salad eating beast from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it's becoming very clear that Declan was a key component into the performances or lack of performances last season, and a lot of the frustrations that were sort of like unleashed in his direction. And he's now getting back to the player that we saw when we first come in. And look, not just the fact that he's scoring goals, but the goals are key goals. They're not sort of like a goal in a game which we've lost 3-1 or something like that. They're goals that have turned a draw into wins. They're match defining moments that he's getting. So, he's like I say, look, he's never going to be Kevin De Bruyne, right? Not going to be spraying 30, 40, 50-yard passes through the eye of a needle. That's not his game. He's not going to be charging around central midfield, with a sort of like an engine, like a Duracell bunny has sort of like got, whatever. Yeah. But what he adds to the team is that it a split second, and whether it's a set piece, whether it's a move that's put together, the ball's played into the sort of like in or around the 6-yard box. If he's lurking, the opposition have really got their work cut out to try and sort of like stop him from having a massive influence as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And to be honest, from memory, when I think Michael Blees is hit the nail on the head. I've said that a few times. He's a bit of a Fellaini style player, minus the soppy Barnet. But I think when we've tried to rest Souček, let's say in Europe or whatever, you're like, oh my God, we look awful. Do you know what I mean? Like when he's not in the team, you notice it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just that bit of a physical presence in there. And look, in a derby, in a London derby, he's going to put his head where it hurts. I mean, the geezer's got more Mars bars on his fucking face than I've ever eaten, because he's just getting whacked in the head. He put his head in where people wouldn't put their hands or their feet.
He's brave, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing you can't ever sort of like level against him is he has a lack of courage. Other players you could possibly say he's a bottle job, he's this, he's that, and they may be players that are more technically gifted than him. And I'm not naming names. You can probably work out who I'm pointing that particular accusation towards. Players that sort of like are much more pleasing on the eye, and they play pretty passes and this, that, and the other. But when there are challenges flying around and someone needs to stand out and be counted, they go missing, Thomas Souček will absolutely, as you say, put his body on the line and risk it all. He'll get cut open. He'll spill claret, literally spill claret for the cause.
Yeah.
Which actually sort of like nobody would really notice because he's wearing a claret shirt. So if it was a white shirt, it'd be like Terry Butcher against Sweden all those years ago. But probably no one would. But no, you get the point I'm making. He's someone that really does. Just if there's a boot flying around and there's a ball there to be had, if he's sort of like the only part of his body he can utilize to sort of get on the end of it and sort of like block a shot or whatever is his head, then he'll think nothing of it. He really won't, and it's a good quality to have, courage.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. And I think when Zuma was out the other week, I was really pleased that Moyes gives Souček the armband because I think if I was just saying, I'd say I think Souček should be our captain.
Okay.
But, I don't think Moyes would do that because I think he'd think that would just have more of a negative impact on Zuma rather than a positive impact overall. But I just think the qualities you want in a captain in terms of bravery, running through a brick wall and standing up where it counts, Souček is up there with with Bowen, I would say, have been the two that have really stood up this season when we've needed them.
Let's put you in the hot seat. You are David Moyes. Well, you're not. You're Ben Gates, but you're in his job. How about that? Just for the day. You've got to pick the starting 11, formation starting 11. Tell me what you're doing. And you guys in the live chat, get involved with this.
I mean, do you know what? This is the part of these little pre-match reviews that actually I kind of dread it because we kind of know the 11 Moyes is going to pick.
Yep.
And I mean, without knocking, I can't really knock Moyes because I'd probably pick exactly the same 11. Do you get what I mean?
The Freiburg game.
Sorry?
Thursday, we got the Freiburg game on the horizon. Need to
I
get
know,
a result
mate.
there.
Yeah. But I just, I would say, I don't know. I don't know much about Areola's injury, Rob. What do
Wrist
you?
injury, apparently.
Too much wanking.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I've already
mate.
done that joke. I did that joke in the Tottenham review. I got that out of the way.
The bad dad jokes running the Gates family.
Well, I'll tell you what. I asked this question yesterday in the review. If Areola's fit for tomorrow, 100% fit, bearing in mind that Fabianski did nothing wrong, does he come straight back in?
Do you know what? That is such a difficult decision. I really, really do think that. I think I'm a firm believer, and I think you are as well, Rob, that if by fortune you get in the team and the shirt is yours, and you've got to lose it. And the fact is, Fabianski was one of our best players on Thursday, in my opinion. I wouldn't. He didn't have bundles of saves to make, but he had a fair few, and the ones he did, he was solid. He was commanding. I would keep Fabianski. I think Areola. I think Areola is the number one. Yeah, I rate him. I think he's a brilliant goalie. But Fabianski had a fucking good season last season, and he kept us in numerous games like he has done for years. He was always going to have to be dropped at some point. But I think no. Just getting to the point. If he's fit, Fabianski's still in goal for me.
Okay. Big
I think Moyes will keep the same back four as
even Zuma.
Tottenham. Yeah. I think Zuma had a good game. I think Zuma had a good game. Sorry,
but can he play two games that close together? Do you think physically can he do it?
I think so, Rob. I think he's a centre back. He's not playing in the engine room. And let's be honest, the game against Thursday, we sat back. It wasn't, he's not getting through miles and miles of legs. Yeah. So I don't know. I would keep the same. I think Moyes will keep the same back four. What I think we should try and consider, though, and I don't know if he's ever played here, is I think maybe considering Mavropanos at right back.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I just
Pep does it a lot, doesn't he? Pep plays centre backs at full back for an occasion, doesn't he?
Yeah, and look, Mavropanos looks like he's got an engine. He likes running, surging forward, and he could do that even more at right back. He's a big lump, and yeah, like you say, a lot of teams are playing centre halves at full back, and I just Kufau's defending is concerning me a little bit. I think he's backing off players a lot, so I'd maybe consider Mavropanos right back. Emerson is just getting Emerson's just getting better and better. It's literally he's one of our best players pretty much every week now. I think, and moving into midfield, Rob. I think it's kind of picking itself. Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, and Souček. If we're looking to mix it up, I'd maybe bring Paqueta into the middle and give one of them lads a rest. Maybe Ward-Prowse. I think Ward-Prowse looks like he's playing every week. Maybe he could be due a rest. Bring Paqueta into the middle. And actually, yeah, I think we need to try and give Cornet a chance and get Kudus out wide and Bowen up top. So that's the team I would go for. I'd love to see Cornet get a go, because I think that ball he put in against Burnley. Was it?
Yeah.
The ball he put in for the goal was fantastic. So yeah, I'd like to give him a go. I'd like to see Mubama involved, Rob, but I'm not holding out too much hope. And Bowen, he looks like he is growing into that centre forward role, especially in the second half against Spurs. He was just he reminded me a little bit like a Craig Bellamy. That he's just a pest. Like he's not Bowen. He's not the biggest. He's not the quickest. But he's work
tenacious,
rate,
isn't he?
It's the tenacity. He won't give up, and because he don't give up, the ball will drop to him in the right place, like it did for the goal. And
gambles.
He gambles, mate. He gambles. And what surprised me when they put the graphic up on, I didn't realise he was the top English scorer in the league.
Crazy, isn't it?
Mate, I with the amount Ollie Watkins has scored, I thought Watkins would be quite a bit ahead of Bowen, but obviously not. And I just think, we're lucky to have him, and he's our main man. I think Kudus was a little bit quiet on Thursday, and he's been absolutely amazing since he's come in. So I think he had a bit of a. Look, he didn't have a bad game, but I just think he won't
not
be
at the
happy
same
with
level.
that performance. I think he's either been scoring or assisting every week and being terrorising people. I don't think he was quite at that on Thursday. So maybe he's got a bit of a average performance out of his system, and he's going to have a big one. Sorry, Joan, I don't agree with you.
No, she's not saying we do. She's saying do we? She's asking a question. She's not making a statement.
Sorry, Joan. I think we missed the Antonio of old. But
I think we miss having him as an option from the bench. Not in the starting lineup. No, not at all.
Yes. No, I agree, mate. Yeah, he's a good option to have off the bench, but his performances are becoming more and more infrequent. Do you get what I'm saying? I think he used to be, he'd have a good game every other game. Now this season, I think it's a good game every 4 or 5 games. And I think we've got to learn to play without him, and we are learning that.
Yeah, I don't think that there's an awful lot of people. As I say, Joan was only asking a question. And I think do we miss him? Probably in the sense that if we had him on the bench as an option, I would be like, yeah, probably we do miss him there. Last
Yeah,
20 minutes or
definitely.
so to sort of like change things up a little bit. And if the Antonio that steps on the pitch is beast mode Antonio, fuck me.
Yeah.
That would be the last thing. If you're a defender in the last 20 minutes or so of game and you're blowing out of your ass because you've been run ragged by Bowen, by Paquetá, by Kudus, Souček with his physicality. And then all of a sudden in the last 20 minutes, David Moyes goes, right, Mickey, on you go. And it's beast mode version Antonio. Fuck me, that is not what you want to see as a defender coming on, would you? He'd be pulling you all over the place. He'd be physically terrorizing the back line. But as you say, that version of Antonio has been seen very infrequently this season. So how likely is it that beast mode version Antonio would come on? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, no. Do you know what, Rob? I think it happens to players. I think he don't look as hungry anymore. Do you know what I mean? I think I think the desire to really bully people and score a goal is not quite what it was with Antonio. Do you know what I mean? So I think when he's back from injury, I don't know how long he's out for, Rob. Do you know when he's back?
I heard the prognosis initially could have been a couple of months. So I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe about January, February time.
I think that yeah, I think in a way, and look, I don't wish injury on anyone. I think the injury might have been a bit of a blessing in a way because it's forced Moyes' hand to mix it up a little bit and actually from an attacking sense, we are scoring goals. Do you know what I mean? So it's obviously not impacted us too much. I think Moyes has come out and said he would be looking at a new striker in January. But he also said that he thinks pretty much all of the league are looking at a new striker in January. So, it's going to be difficult. I'd like to see Mubama get more of a run out to see. Listen, I think he's got potential. I don't know if he's good enough. No one knows if he's good enough at Premier League level because he hasn't had too much of an opportunity. But I think he needs to get a few minutes, which would be good. So look, hopefully we can go out there tomorrow, get a few goals, put the game to bed, and then try and, if we can get into a 2 or 3-0 lead, I know that's very wishful thinking, but if we can get into a 2 or 3-0 lead with the game on Thursday in mind, then with half hour to go, bring the lights of Mubama, maybe Ben Rama, and give a few of the lads a rest.
Happy mentions a name there, Cole Palmer. That would have been an interesting signing if we could have pulled that one off. But
absolutely,
I'm not too sure Moyes would have gone that route. Well, he didn't, obviously, because young striker. I'm not too sure. Moyes' default position isn't usually to go out and spend money on someone of that level of inexperience at the Premier League. But to be fair, he's doing the business at Chelsea, even if the team isn't.
Yeah, no, he's a top player. I think he's more of a creative winger / false nine. But look, there's a few options out there, but we'll do a separate session on our January transfer wish list.
We will indeed. Right. Okay. So final question. What is your score prediction? And again, this is aimed at the guys in the live chat as well, so feel free to get stuck into that. What's your score prediction, Ben? How's this going to unfold?
Right, I'm actually going to the game tomorrow. I think you are as well, Rob, aren't you?
Yeah. How are you getting there?
I don't know. We'll chat about that after. No one wants to be bored to see what bus I'm going to get on.
Maybe
they do. I'm going to say Fulham 0, West Ham United 2. I'm like I say, I think defensively, I'm seeing signs that as a unit we're getting a bit better. So I'm saying we're going to keep a clean sheet for the first time in a fucking long time from memory, and I think goals wise, I'm going to say Thomas Souček, and James Ward-Prowse. I'm going to predict that Souček pops up in the box like he always does. And I'm going to say Ward-Prowse carries on his scoring form, but actually his first goal from a free kick for us.
I was going to ask you that. Is it going to be his first set-piece goal?
Yeah. I just think, unfortunately, I mean, he's had a few opportunities. I remember a few free kicks, but it's like they've been too close, right on the edge of the box. I think he's going to get one a bit further out tomorrow and rip the back of the net. So 2-0 West Ham, and we'll just keep pushing up the league and, keep just trying to keep in touch. If we can keep in touch with, the top 6, the top 4, I don't think we're going to get top 4, but if we can just stay in and around the mix, get into January, maybe get a few new recruits. I think there's probably a couple of players we might ship out. I think someone's just said Kehrer might be going back to Germany, and let's be honest, it hasn't worked out for him. And he's a German international. He don't want to be sitting on West Ham's bench. So I'd say, look, let's get rid of him and bring in someone hungry to fight for a place in the first 11.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just looking at the Premier League table there, Ben, I'm right in saying, aren't I, that as far as, because obviously the Brighton Burnley game, we probably want a Burnley. We do want Burnley to turn Brighton over there, don't we? Manchester United, we are playing Bournemouth. We'd like a Man United defeat there. That'd be good. The interesting one's going to be Tottenham Newcastle. Now, I think for us, probably the ideal result there would be a draw. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, because it keeps it more congested in there. I think, definitely a draw there. Obviously, hopefully, Everton are on some good form, so hopefully they can do Chelsea. And then that we can just if we win and Chelsea lose, that's an 8-point gap between us and them. That's it's a big old margin for a team that have spent a bundle of money. So yeah,
it's a ridiculous sum that they've spent in the last season or two.
Just looking at that, Rob, what surprises me is, football's so fickle. Yeah. Man United are actually top of the form table over the last 5 games.
Isn't it mad?
It's mad. But then when you watched them, say, against Newcastle, and then you heard the reaction, you're thinking, Ten Hag's going to get the sack. And they looked absolutely woeful. But then all of a sudden, things can change so quickly. So I just think, hopefully we can win. We can get a few favours from other teams, and I think it's a good weekend of football. Actually, there's some interesting games. I think the Villa Arsenal game tonight is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, well, you got the Crystal Palace are playing Liverpool in about just over 15 minutes time, I believe, which I think is probably a good excuse. Seeing we've pretty much covered everything off that we needed to. I think it's probably a good excuse for us to go. Thanks for joining us, guys. Please don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon for alerts of new content. Don't forget to click all. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support. And we also thank you very much indeed for joining us on this particular escapade. We will disappear. We'll say, come on, you Irons, stay safe. And please also don't forget to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. And we will see you for the review, which will probably be Monday. Take care.
The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Massive.